Why Lewis Hamilton is struggling with wheel-to-wheel racing. Lewis Hamilton crashed out of the Qatar Grand Prix after contact with his teammate George Russell. Now this is something that occasionally happens in racing and shouldn't be a reason for concern. However, Sir Lewis Hamilton, the 7-time world champion, has a reputation for being a clean driver. In the next 5 minutes or so, we'll have a look if that's true. And if Lewis is still as squeaky clean as they're trying to make us believe he is. I'm Wimbo. Here's 3 seconds to leave a like. Hamilton at McLaren. Lewis Hamilton made his debut in 2007 at McLaren, which was run at the time by Ron Dennis, who had looked after the young man from Stevenage from when he was only 13. After a year of testing, which was allowed those days, Hamilton was paired up with the 2-time world champion Fernando Alonso. That didn't go very well. The pair clashed on a regular basis, and everything that transpired in those days deserves a video on its own. As for being a clean driver, one could say that Lewis Hamilton was wild. Numerous accidents happened and he was the least bit ashamed about it. In 2011, he faced a lot of criticism after causing several crashes in Monaco and later in Canada. When asked if he should change his driving style, he said, "I have stood back and had a look at things and I like the way I drive, so I'm going to continue to drive the way I do." Niki Lauda wasn't pleased with young Hamilton's attitude, and honest and direct as ever, the 3-time world champion said, "He's completely mad. If FIA doesn't punish him, I do not understand the world anymore. At some point, there has to be an end to all the jokes. You cannot drive like this, as it will result in someone getting killed." It's fair to say that Lewis Hamilton didn't have the best reputation when he started racing, and that's an understatement. Hamilton at Mercedes. In 2013, Lewis Hamilton said goodbye to Ron Dennis, who had brought him that far, and joined Mercedes to replace the retired Schumacher. I think Hamilton had lost that wild streak somewhat, and then when in 2014 the new regulations were brought in, he found himself in a super dominant car with an overpowered engine. He started getting pole lap after pole lap, and if he wasn't on pole, he'd be on the front row. Obviously, this made things a hell of a lot easier for him. A dominant car and only cars behind you is a great way to stay out of trouble, which he did. I think this is where Hamilton built his reputation of being the favourite son-in-law when it comes to racing. Mercedes has always been a team where PR is mighty important, so clean racing and thanking the crowd was seen as a virtue. This all changed when Nico Rosberg, once Hamilton's best friend, was tired of getting beaten by Lewis and put everything he had into winning that championship. There was plenty of contact between those two fighting, and that period was dubbed the Silver War. The most famous crash was of course Spain 2016, where Hamilton pushed too hard, tried overtaking on the grass, and spun and took Rosberg in the process with him. Niki Lauda laid the blame on Hamilton for that incident. "It is stupid. We could have won this race," Lauda said. "Lewis is too aggressive. I need to talk to them and hear their explanation, and then we will see what happens." It took until 2017 when Mercedes finally had some resistance in the form of Vettel, who drove for Ferrari. I don't think there were any big incidents between them. Leave a comment if you can think of any. But there was a new wild kid on the grid then. A teenage Max Verstappen was getting himself a reputation as a dangerous driver. And for a certain fan base, he'll always be that dangerous driver. Conveniently forgetting what I described earlier in this video. Hamilton in the ground effect era. It's clear Mercedes doesn't have the strong package anymore they once had. This caused Hamilton to start his races a lot further back than he was used to, and it shows in the number of contacts and crashes he had with other drivers on the grid. There were 2 incidents with Kevin Magnussen in 2022, and in Belgium Hamilton tried to pass Alonso and turned in too early, much like he did in Qatar with Russell recently. In 2023, the 38-year-old Englishman ruined Oscar Piastri's race in Italy and drove a hole in Checo Perez's car in Belgium during the sprint race. And as I've already mentioned, a big crash that saw him retire from the Qatar Grand Prix. How is this possible for a driver that earned so much respect for his clean way of driving? The reason why Hamilton is struggling. The most obvious reason is indeed that he's racing in parts of the track with more drivers around him. This requires a different way of thinking, especially at the start of a race. Now correct me if I'm wrong, but his starts have been phenomenal this season. They have to be good due to the position he's starting most of the time. He's losing the qualifying battle against Russell this season. Another reason is that for a driver to make a confident safe overtake, one needs overspeed, and with the W13 and the W14 not being the fastest cars on track, this is very difficult, making fights for positions drag on a lot longer, like with Piastri in Monza. The third reason is that Hamilton isn't fighting for a championship. He's not even fighting for a win most of the time, so he can take more risk in his overtakes as it won't cost him a title. The crash with Russell was one out of frustration, in my humble opinion. I'm sure Lewis is getting tired of Russell starting in front of him, and with the softs on and his good starts, he wanted to show George who's in charge, passing him on the outside and squeezing him a little as soon as he was past him far enough. Except that he wasn't past his front wing far enough. They collided, Russell spun but continued. He actually drove a hell of a race, and Lewis Hamilton was left to walk back to the pits, which gave him a penalty for crossing the track. In conclusion, Lewis Hamilton isn't as clean as Sky Sports F1 and Drive to Survive are letting us believe. He's not an extremely dirty driver either, although he can be a sneaky street fighter too. For Lewis Hamilton to become that squeaky clean driver he once was again, he needs that overpowering package, or settle for 5th places. I doubt either of those things will happen. Subscribe. Take care now. Doei doei.